Hi again, it's Thea Monyee, and I'm here for today's Truth Talks. For those of you who are new to Truth Talks are a series of video responses to questions that are submitted by you regarding real-life dilemmas with family and love and relationship and kids and parenting and just life in general. And I offer my humble third-party opinion as a marriage and family therapist, as a mother, as a woman, as an artist, just as another human being, an objective third party, which in no way replaces your own intuition, instinct, family system, significant other, mental health professional, doctor, belief system, or any other form of support you already have in your life. It's simply meant to be an objective third party opinion. So with that being said, let's talk about today's Truth Talk topic. Today's Truth Talk is how to make the switch from Skintimate to celibate while in the same relationship. Now, at first, this may seem like that doesn't really happen that much, but honestly, within the last year, I've had about 3 or 4 friends in this scenario. And I think it's important because it brings up the issue of when we're together with someone for a long period of time, that doesn't mean that we stop growing as individuals, right? So we're still growing, we're still developing. We may want to change jobs, develop a new career interest, or our belief system may change or grow. And I think that's a little bit of what our person writing in today, we're going to call her Lily, is experiencing. So Lily has been in her relationship for 2 years. And she just simply sent a question: how do I make this switch and approach this conversation with my significant other about wanting to switch from being sexually intimate to celibacy? So we first have to acknowledge this is a pretty big conversation to have in a relationship, especially since it's not the conversation that we had up front. And it's not the conversation that we had even a year in. We're 2 years into this relationship, and it has been a sexual relationship, which means that other person has developed needs, an appetite, or just a sense of normalcy around having a sex life with you. So this is a big conversation, and I think part of the anxiety is that there is an awareness that the conversation, or not today or not immediately, but even later down the line, may result in the end of the relationship. So we have to discuss all aspects of this. I wrote down a couple notes. So the first thing I think one should do when trying to switch from Skintimate to celibate is to be really, really clear and honest with yourself. There are many reasons people become celibate. Some are religious, some are physical, some are emotional. But whatever your reason is, be very clear about it and make sure that you're not saying it's one thing to mask another. Intimacy, especially non-sexual intimacy, becomes more challenging for people the longer they're in a relationship, because the deeper you go and the more triggers you're going to set off and the more hidden booby traps you're going to find emotionally in another person. So one way to avoid that is to stop having a sexual relationship with somebody. Other things could be you feel differently about your body. Some people have had children, or just their body has changed over time. They may have had illness. So those are other factors that could be why you truly want to be celibate. However, in this scenario, Lily has explained that for her, she wants to have a closer relationship with God, and she wants their relationship to be blessed. And so I'm using her words, and we're going to come from her perspective. So it sounds like Lily's done the first step. She's been clear with herself about what she needs. In this case, it's a spiritual need, to move forward and feel comfortable in the relationship. So then we move on to our second step. Our second step is to make sure that we are being fair. By being fair, what I mean is that we can't walk into this conversation with the expectation that this person is going to jump up and down and be super excited about the notion of not having sex with someone they've been having sex with for a couple years. So let's be reasonable about that. you may have had 2 or 3 or more months to process this and how you feel about it, but they may just have 20 minutes. And in that 20 minutes, they may say a lot of things because they're in the middle of processing and trying to understand and rationalizing and justifying and a lot of other things that if you aren't comfortable with this conversation, you could perceive as an attack against you or as this person being less than supportive or less than loving. I don't think that's fair. I think at all times during this conversation, you need to keep in mind that this person is very new to this idea, that they're still processing it, and try really hard not to judge them based on their initial reactions. Another thing that I will suggest is that you stay on topic. What I mean by that is this is a bombshell like we just talked about, right? So this person is going to be throwing in the kitchen sink. Is it because of this? Is it because of an ex? Is it because of you feel this way? I mean, they're going to be trying to understand and rationalize and justify why you would want to make this decision, especially this far along in the relationship. Your goal in that and the way you can support them is to stay consistent with your reasoning and your truth. If they go off to left field, don't follow them. If they go off to right field, don't follow them. Stay consistent. Stay in the middle. Stay centered and be calm. Know that that's going to be a part of the processing, and it may be that way for days or a couple weeks until they can really wrap their mind and begin to be calm and understand where you're coming from. The fourth thing I would suggest, Lily, is to be prepared. There's a possibility, a 50-50 chance that this person could process this for days or for weeks and come to the conclusion that although celibacy could meet your spiritual need, it may not meet a need for them. Whether that need is emotional or physical, it shouldn't be belittled or minimized as a lesser than need. It is a need. And the fact that they're being honest about that is a very loving thing to do. And that could result in you two deciding to go your separate ways. I think one of the worst mistakes you could make in this situation is to confuse need with love. So, for instance, if the person says, well, I don't feel the same way and I do want to be able to have a sexual relationship with the person that I'm in love with, then you should not interpret that as, well, you don't really love me or you can't love me because you can't accept this about me. That is not fair. They're being honest about what their need is the same way you're being honest about what your need is. And maybe the loving thing is to both be honest about that and to admit that we may not be able to meet that need here. If we can, awesome, then we can. And we move forward together and we decide what this is going to look like. And we have a conversation about how long we plan to do this and what our next steps will be. But if we can't, we shouldn't vilify the other person because they came to a different conclusion. We shouldn't say or demean or try to minimize their love for us by saying, if you love me, you would. Because they could turn around and say the same thing, right? Well, if you love me, you would. And you wouldn't find that to be fair. So make sure this is not an issue of love. This is an issue of needs. And sometimes we have different needs. And sometimes we grow apart. And that is okay. And we will be okay, right? As long as we're being honest with each other and as long as we're being respectful about each other's process and each other's journey, then at the end of the day, it'll all work out for the best. So let's review that, okay? Make sure you're clear on where you're coming from and why you want to introduce celibacy into the relationship. Make sure that you stay on topic about what your reasonings are and stay consistent with that, even if this person is vacillating to the right or the left because they're still processing it and it may be more challenging for them seeing how they've only had 20 minutes with it and you've had about 2 to 3 months. Be realistic. They're not going to jump up and down, most likely. They're not going to be excited about it. They're going to need some time to process it and understand it. So don't judge them too harshly based on their initial reaction. And be prepared. Be prepared that this cannot be a fear-based conversation. It cannot be a comparison or an ultimatum on love. It has to be an honest, loving conversation about needs and getting our needs met. And I'm pretty confident, Lily, if you come at it from that perspective, even though it's a really big conversation, that you'll have peace with whatever the outcome is, and eventually that person will too. But I must commend you for your bravery and for your honesty, because that alone tells me that you really love this person. So I hope this helps. And I thank you guys for joining me for today's Truth Talks. If you have a situation or a dilemma that you would like to see discussed on Truth Talks, feel free to email me at bookthea@gmail.com. Until then, love each other and take care of each other. And I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.